Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Langogo Genesis at $249 US. This is a pocketable translator that is always connected through an embedded SIM. In fact, the manufacturer gives you the first 2 years on the house in terms of data connectivity, specifically for translation. But what's also interesting is that this can actually act as a hotspot for up to 5 devices. So if you choose to put in your own SIM card, you can use it as a hotspot around the globe. With that said, this was provided to me for review purposes by the manufacturer, full disclosure as always, but let's get right into it. So a 3.1-inch touchscreen on the front, and really, in my opinion, what appears to be one of the most refined and overall polished devices in its class. And you might be wondering why you'd want something like this. It's not inexpensive, certainly at $249 US. I believe it originally launched earlier this year for around $300. But again, it's always on. You do not need a data connection since it has that embedded SIM on board. And you're going to find out in the first 2 years, obviously, whether or not this works for you. 105 languages are supported offline. You have, I believe, 5 languages supported. I believe it's English, Korean, Japanese, Chinese. Maybe it's only 4. But either way, AI driven. I believe it has beyond general algorithms for self-learning. It also has, I think, 24 systems or engines rather that it works on for voice recognition. It can record just as a dictaphone up to 24 hours based on its internal storage. It can also transcribe that. So you can get a voice out of this device if you want. In other words, when you're translating on the go, it will actually relay that in the language that you're trying to, or you can just go with written text if you want to just transcribe it so that the person doesn't have to try to deal with listening to the audio out of the device. So as a dedicated device, I think there is a market for this. I've always been interested in these, and that's why when the manufacturer reached out to me, I said, sure, send it over, because I haven't reviewed one of these, and I've always thought they were interesting. One thing I want to point out is that I do think it's important to have with a device like this the ability to connect it to Bluetooth headphones, and I don't think that's a feature. If it is, I will be sure to update you. So first thing out of the box, connect you with people and cultures through innovation and technology, and that's certainly what they're striving to do with a product like this. We have our SIM key right here for ejecting the SIM card slot, user manual, and there is the device. And I have to say, it is a very nice looking device. It does remind me of a traditional dictaphone or voice recorder. Volume button on the left side, the rocker, the power button, the translation button. And that's what's cool about this, is that it does translate in real time. And I know people over and over again will tell me that they can just do this with Google, with their smartphone. But again, if you're traveling in a country where you are roaming and you don't know, or you do know what data is going to cost for that matter, this is going to be a better device to use, even though it's another thing to carry, even though it's a dedicated device, and it has one purpose really ultimately, even though it can double as a voice recorder. I think just in the fact that you don't have to rely on paying for data for translation services is a big plus. And you will be doing that, of course, unless you have access to free Wi-Fi, which you're not going to have as you travel through a foreign country. Charging port at the bottom is Type-C, another thing I like to see, because, I mean, everyone pretty much knows these days Type-C makes the world go round, and I would much rather have a Type-C port than anything else. I'm already carrying those cables, so it makes sense. And speaker, it does have, I believe, a dual microphone array, noise cancellation, but no, as I mentioned, no 3.5mm headphone jack, and I don't think the device has Bluetooth. So not a major knock, because again, there are other devices out there like this, but none quite like this one, and that's why it's interesting. You get a lanyard out of the box, and then I believe this is the charging cable, which does not include a power brick, but nonetheless, it is, of course, a Type-C cable. If I can open this without completely destroying the packaging. I like to keep things as neat as possible sometimes. And there it is, yeah, just a white Type-C cable with type A on the other end, so you can plug this into your laptop, plug it into a wall brick, whatever you want. This is a pretty short cable though if you plan to plug it into a wall. So let's go ahead and power this baby on. I'm going to remove the plastic that's guiding us on the different buttons, and let's move the packaging out of frame. And I didn't mention where the SIM card slot is, so it's right there above the translation button. Again, real time. And the volume rocker I already mentioned, power button. That's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and power this on. First thing we're greeted by is that AI loading screen. And also on the internal side, the processor that's on board, all those things really do promise to be as cutting edge, at least as a translator has to offer. And it's reflected in the price point. I mean, this is not an inexpensive device. There are less expensive options out there, but none that really have this breadth of capability. And you better believe I will be testing this. So right out of the box, English, let's go. And now it wants me to connect to my network, which I'm going to do off screen. Bear with me. And I can already tell you the touch screen, I mean, it works fairly well. It looks like it's being driven by an Android-based OS. You can see the battery at the top right. We have 72%. So I'm going to log into my network. The keyboard is fairly small. We've got haptic feedback, which is nice. I like that already. And, if this proves to be reliable, I don't see why this wouldn't be of interest to people. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, even though you have a lot of this functionality built into, current smartphones, nothing new there, you still don't have data everywhere that you go. I can't stress this enough. And, it's something where having this, again, even though it's a dedicated device, I think it's a pretty cool thing to have on board when you travel. And it's very lightweight. I mean, it's not that big. I will have to think about what kind of case to throw this into. So tap flags to change languages. Well, we're sticking with English. And then if we want to translate into Chinese, we'll see how this works. Swipe down to go back. Now let's begin. So they're saying hold the side button to translate. So let's try this right now. You ready? First test. Hello, how are you? And there we have it. I'm speaking Chinese, so to speak, with a female voice. So then, of course, they're telling you again that you can swap between English or Chinese Mandarin. Again, this is English US. Try it again. What is the weather like today? Pretty cool. And if you notice, it's transcribing perfectly. It is not missing anything. Let's try something a little bit more complicated. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what I would ask. Can I please get directions to the nearest restaurant that only serves fish? Well, I'm hoping that some of you out there that speak Chinese can tell me whether or not this is accurate. In fact, what I'm going to do now is just record while I speak and see how it performs. So far, I think this is impressive. I like that it has a touch screen. I think that for many users, this is the type of device that they'll be happy to travel with because it has the embedded SIM, which means you'll always have data, at least for 2 years, in order to continue translating in up to 105 languages. And who knows, they may even expand that database, if that's possible, and continue to improve on their AI and algorithms so that this product matures into something beyond what you could ever think of achieving with a traditional translating app. Let's see. Wow. Okay, so that's pretty fast.
翻译，谁知道如果可能的话，他们甚至可以扩展数据库，并继续改进他们的 AI 和算法，从而使该产品成熟。
Boy, I think I talked too much, huh?
传统翻译应用程序所能实现的目标。
Okay, so it's prompting me to update. It has this whole time. Yeah, I'll do it. Let's see how quickly it updates. It's moving fairly quickly. And already I think this thing is cool. I mean, this is why I love what I do, folks. I mean, this may seem to some of you like an obscure niche product, but I think it's pretty cool. So it's rebooting. And, support is what's also going to differentiate this product from others out there. So I didn't get to see that it transcribed everything that I said, but I have to say the accuracy so far has been pretty solid. The speaker quality seems decent. I didn't check that I had volume all the way up, but it's certainly audible for me, and I don't see why it wouldn't be for anyone else. Again, build quality seems fairly good. I mean, this is a lightweight device. Again, it's not meant to be a brick in your pocket. All plastic. There we have it. So translation, global Wi-Fi, it's all there. I'm going to play with this more and eventually report back. You can see it has interpreter mode. It has Yuri. I'm not sure what that is. System languages. That must be some sort of assistant. Intelligent recording and settings. So, I mean, this is just, look, when I saw it, I thought it was cool, and using it right now kind of proves that. I just have to spend more time with it and see how practical it is and test it with people that speak other languages that I do not. And don't worry, I have access to those. Even though I'm not in New York anymore, there are still people where I live that speak other languages. Just harder to find them. So I'll be testing it out, and who knows, I might be using this with some of the manufacturers that I communicate with. It will help bridge the gap, I think, possibly. It seems better than a traditional app online, because God knows that they screw up translations nonstop, just not understanding the nuance of translating, and instead just doing literal translations, which can end up becoming confusing for both parties that are trying to translate whatever they're trying to translate. So, interesting product. Again, the Langogo Genesis. I'll include a link in the description. Always on, always translating from the cloud, at least for those first 2 years from the date of your purchase, or when you receive it, to be exact. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.